1 year into the Russia-Ukraine war, the fog of war still has not lifted. If anything, the longer the war drags on, the less we're able to tell facts from propaganda. A good example is what we know about Vladimir Putin, Russia's president. Not a week passes these days without new and more speculations about the mystery man behind Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Is Putin ill? Last month, video footage of Putin unable to control his twitching feet during a conversation with the president of Belarus has again sparked health concerns. Is Putin about to be overthrown? A former speechwriter for Putin recently predicted on CNN that a military coup in Russia is a real possibility over the next year. Is Putin about to retire? The Daily Mail cited a source who was once close to Putin who claimed that Putin would nominate his chosen heir already this year and retire to his palace near the Black Sea. Putin has kept the world guessing about his next move. But what is his strategy? Is he playing a long game or is he planning a surprise attack? What do the Russian economic data tell us about Putin's war strategy? Can he win the war? Hi, I'm David Wu, a former Wall Street strategist with a 20-year track record of making actionable predictions about major global change. Welcome to The Money Game, where I take on groupthink, propaganda, and conspiracy theories in my critical analysis of markets, economics, and politics. Before we begin, please hit subscribe and the bell button so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. There's perhaps nothing more telling about Putin's strategy than the Russian budget balance. A year into the war, which Putin continues to call the special military operation, Russia's fiscal position remains strong. Russia ended 2022 with a budget deficit of 2.3% of GDP. While this was high by Russian standards, it compares well with the US budget deficit of 5.5% of GDP for the fiscal year 2022 and 7% of GDP for the United Kingdom. While Russia's record budget deficit in December made sensational headlines, the improvement in January and February indicates that it was one-off. Indeed, budget revenue picked up sharply in February. These results are impressive because they come despite the surge of war-related expenditures and the collapse of Russia's energy exports to Europe, previously Russia's most important trading partner. Russia's strong fiscal position tells us three things. One, the economy is holding up. Fiscal balance is one of the best indicators of the performance of any economy. The fact that Russia's fiscal balance has not deteriorated more sharply suggests the economy has avoided a deep recession. The Russian economy contracted only 2.1% last year and is expected by the International Monetary Fund to grow 0.3% in 2023. There's even room for upside surprises. Purchasing manager survey for both manufacturing and services are back in expansionary territory. Car sales, although still down on a year-on-year basis, are well off the low of last year. The unemployment rate remains near its all-time low. Two, the economy is proving to be resilient to the sanctions so far. Russian seaborne oil exports have recovered strongly this year, despite a complete ban by Europe on the importation of Russian oil and petroleum products that went into effect late last year. While Russia's imports from the West have fallen sharply, its imports from China have surged. Russia's current account has remained in a healthy surplus, even if it's declined with a drop in oil prices over the past 3 quarters. Three, fiscal conservatism has allowed Putin to shield the Russian public from the economic effects of the war. In most wars, the public bears the cost via either higher taxes or higher inflation. Inflation in Russia did surge immediately following the invasion, but has been coming down steadily over the past year. At just 11% in February, it is barely higher than that in the UK. Although Russia has increased taxation on the energy sector, it has raised welfare payments to ease the fallout from the war on the average citizen. Russia's continued fiscal conservatism suggests Putin is preparing and has prepared for a long war. A long war requires staying power. Staying power means conserving your resources and make them last. Staying power also means avoiding imposing too much economic hardship on the general public. Staying power means maintaining economic stability at all costs. Consistent with the staying power theory is the fact that the Russian army did not launch a major winter offensive as many experts and commentators, including yours truly, have predicted at the end of last year. It was thought by many that the mobilization of 300,000 reservists in September was a preparation of an all-out war. By now, 6 months have passed, and there are no signs that Moscow is planning a major offensive. No doubt, Russian forces have made progress in eastern Ukraine. They have achieved operational encirclement of Bakhmut and Avdiivka, and are moving towards Siversk and Liman. However, if a decisive defeat of the Ukrainian force is necessary to end the war, Putin is not so naive to think that these local and gradual advances in eastern Ukraine will do the trick. More likely, these local advances are defensive battles designed to make the Ukrainian territory already under Russian control less vulnerable to any potential Ukrainian offensive. The famous 3-to-1 rule states that any attacking army needs a 3-to-1 advantage over a defending army in order to succeed. A 1986 survey of 600 land battles from 1600 to 1973 by the U.S. Army Concepts Analysis Agency shows that when an attacking army enjoys a 3-to-1 advantage, they succeeded 74% of the time. Even with the mobilization of 300,000 reservists, Russia does not have even close to the 3-to-1 advantage that it needs to ensure a successful major offensive that could end the war. There are rumors flying that Russia will soon call up more reservists, but increasingly it looks like Putin has decided to play defense and let Zelensky worry about the numbers. Indeed, since Moscow's decision to pull out from Kherson, Russian troops have been busy building and strengthening 3 separate defense lines in southern Ukraine that are likely target for a potential Ukrainian offensive. Staying power is important in a long war, but staying power is also relative. Putin has good reasons to think that he has more staying power than Zelensky. After all, the war is being fought in Ukraine and not in Russia. After all, Russia has a population of close to 150 million people, more than 4 times bigger than that of Ukraine. After all, the Russian economy is stable while the Ukrainian economy is living from hand to mouth, completely at the mercy of the West. Putin also knows that international public opinion is moving in his favor. A March 7 report from the Economist Intelligence Unit indicated that net support for Russia has grown over the past year. The EIU found a significant uptick in the number of countries now leaning towards Russia, from 29 last year to 35 today. These countries account for 33% of the world's population. The EIU also found that the number of neutral countries, representing 31% of the world's population, rose from 32 to 35. In other words, countries that account for nearly 2/3 of the world's population are now either pro-Russia or neutral. The fact that Russia is emerging from international isolation means that there are more ways for Russia to get around the Western economic sanctions. It also makes it easier for Putin to retain support at home. But what about the West? After all, Ukraine's staying power in the war is a simple function of the staying power of the West. The West has been pumping money and weapons into Ukraine to keep Kiev in the war. How long will the West be able to keep this up? War fatigue is clearly growing in Europe. The Wall Street Journal reported last month that politicians in France, Germany, and the UK are having deepening private doubts about the ability of Ukraine to push Russian forces out of Donbass and Crimea. One senior French official told the Wall Street Journal, "We keep repeating that Russia mustn't win, but what does it mean? If the war goes on for long enough with this intensity, Ukraine's losses will become unbearable." Lately, these concerns are being echoed in the US. Donald Trump, who is leading by 30% in the latest Republican presidential nomination poll, said last week that the war has to stop now because Ukraine is being obliterated. Ron DeSantis, who has not said if he's running, said in an interview earlier this month that further entanglement in a territorial dispute between Ukraine and Russia is not a vital national interest and distracts the US from its most pressing challenges. Putin might decide that time is on his side. He could either wait for a change in the US administration, or he could wait for the current US administration to grow impatient and push Ukraine into launching a major offensive of its own to show results. Either of these two scenarios would be less risky than trying to end the war by launching a major offensive. The Russian military is famous for its doctrine of military deception, known as Maskarova. The fact that NATO is sharing with Ukraine its intelligence, reconnaissance, and surveillance data collected by satellites and other capabilities obviously makes it more difficult for Russian military strategists to pull off big surprises, especially when their troops are on the move. This could be another reason why Putin may want to wait until Ukraine to make the first move before he unleashes Russia's military might. One thing is clear, the war is not over yet. Not by a long shot. If you got something out of this program, please hit like and subscribe to my free YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about my investment strategy, come visit us at davidwunbound.com. Thank you for listening.